Welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel, the only gun channel that's dripping with that BDE. That's right, Big Dad Energy. I have a fantastic one for you guys today. What did Batman say to Robin before they got in the car? Get in the car. I can just imagine Lego Batman doing that in my mind. It's fantastic.
I'm a night-stalking, crime-fighting vigilante and a heavy metal rapping machine.
I'm David, and I'm talking to you today about an app called Double Shoot that turns your cell phone into a target computer that can allow you to make informed decisions on gear and technique change, as well as just practice at the range. Now, this is a review slash sponsored video. They reached out to me, so I get to tell you guys about it, but that doesn't really change the message any. I'm a big fan of using data when making decisions on training and technique changes and gear changes and things like that. A lot of people in the firearm space just go by feel. You buy the shiny new whiz bang thing, you put it on your gun and like, it's better. I feel that it's better. Well, I'm a big fan of, is it actually better? And the only way you can do that is through using data, and that's what Double Shoot does. If at any point during this video the app sounds interesting to you, there is a link in the description that you can follow to check it out. The way that Double Shoot works is you print off a target on their website on an 8.5 by 11. It's really pretty easy. You fire up the app. Once you're logged in, you take a picture of the baseline target. You set up the drill parameters, whether it's 5 shots, 10 shots, the distance that you're shooting at. Once the target's shot, you take a picture of it again, and it will detect your bullet holes in it, and it will measure the outside to outside scatter. But what's cool about it is it can then determine your mean point of impact, where it is relative to the desired point of impact, and help you zero your dot by offering adjustment to the dot that you're using. So more of that later. And one thing that's really cool about that is the targets really aren't that proprietary. You can go to your typical office store like a UPS store or a FedEx office and have them print out a whole stack of targets for like $5. And that way you're not held hostage by the tyranny of your printer that thirsts for cyan and magenta ink. Why that's needed to print in black, I will never know, but this way your wife won't yell at you for using all the ink. The two really big reasons why I like this app, aside from the fact it collects data, is it doesn't make you have any other gear. So the cost is very, very low. You're bringing your cell phone to the range anyway, so it's a very low risk thing to be trying out. And let's talk about how I have used this. Now, I've taken it to the range about 6 times over the past 2 months or so, and generally the experience was very, very positive. We'll put some negatives at the end because everything's got some. So I am a USPSA competitor competing with handguns in open division, which is race guns with 9 major. 9 major is usually loaded with 2 different projectile shapes. There is the jacketed hollow point or a full metal jacket. Reason being is that those coated projectiles can gum up your comp pretty bad. I've already paid the stupid tax on that one. So I wanted to see if I could save a little bit of money and get the same results using an FMJ projectile versus the JHPs that I have been using. So I took the 2 different profiles of JHP and this new FMJ, took it to the range, loaded up 20 rounds of each, and then just measured the target. Shooting at 25 yards, I observed my group size. So shooting groups at 25 yards, predictably the JHPs were more accurate at 9mm major velocities through my gun, and I don't have to just kind of guess at that or just kind of eyeball it. It tells me in inches what the spread was, and sure enough, the FMJs were slightly less accurate than the JHPs. The cost point also isn't that much different, so I stuck with the JHPs in making that decision. Another example of using it is I was really curious about tweaking my recoil management technique from my elbows in my traditional grip to kind of getting more exaggerated and kind of elbowing out, if you will, to see how that stabilizes the gun. Loaded up my 226 with 10 rounds. Then I shot pairs at a target, 5 pairs of 2. And then I did the same thing again by rolling my elbows out more to the side to see what happened. Now, the data tells me that the second technique actually is less effective, but what I observed to happen was that the 4th and 5th pair is when my technique started to break down because it was a new unnatural technique. Then that's when the shots started to open up. Regardless, the difference looks very subtle to the point where I don't know that I would explore spending a bunch of time in adopting a new technique when it doesn't seem the juice is worth the squeeze. And you can do the same thing like how you're addressing the trigger, whether you're using like the tip or the crease or whatever it is. to pull the trigger, you can do that with the app and understand what the effects of that are. All you trigger snob guys who are convinced that you need a really good trigger, you'll find out, just like I did, and I've got a drawer full of connectors in my closet for Glocks to prove it, that the trigger snobbery really doesn't matter. It's just an easy way for you to spend money and brag. And everybody who gets offended by that but doesn't have objective data to back up their assertion that they need the better trigger, guess what, buddy? If you get this app, you can prove it to yourself that it's unnecessary. Your technique is your technique. The hardware doesn't matter that much. As far as using it as a training aid is concerned, I can think of two easy drills to do. The first is a simple walk back drill. If you were working on your accuracy, you could start with an idea of an acceptable group size. It could be something as objective as the shape of your palm if you wanted to do that, or since the app gives you inches, you could say, I want to shoot a 2-inch group at whatever distance. So start shooting that 2-inch group at 5 yards. If you are successful, move it back to 7. If you're successful there, move it back to 10. And keep pushing the distance out with your 5-shot groups until you hit the distance you can't do it at. And keep training there. Work there at the same thing until you can do it 2 or 3 times in a row. And at that point, move it further out. What you're trying to do is you're trying to find the distance where your skill breaks down and you're successful about half the time. That's where you need to be practicing, and that's where you're going to develop as a shooter. And using the app, you can know objectively whether you're satisfying that goal or not. Another thing you can do, which is fun to try, and you may need a pistol rest. It's not a bad thing to have in your arsenal. I got a link in the description to the one I use. It's the Caldwell Pistolero. It's off at Amazon. It's like sub 40 bucks. Using a pistol rest, you can shoot a group off a rest at a given distance, and then stand up and shoot freestyle and see if you can match the group size, and really work on getting your technique to shoot at the mechanical accuracy of your equipment and ammunition. Another really cool feature about the app is that it will offer adjustments to your optic to move your average point of impact to your desired point of impact. So if you're zeroing a gun, you can fire a 5-shot group and then it will offer up adjustments to get you on target. Now, I took a gun to the range that had a good zero, jacking up my zero. I broke the zero and then used the app to zero it again. I was able to get a very precise zero within about 10 shots shooting offhand. Now, the app is only as good as you are, so if you can't shoot consistently small groups at the distance you desire to zero the gun at, then you probably need to be using a pistol rest, and there's absolutely no shame in that game. This is very much a development journey, getting better at shooting guns. So if you need to use a rest right now, that's totally fine. It's better to have a gun that is precise and fix the shooter than to make the equipment accommodate bad technique. As far as quirks are concerned, there are a couple that I can talk about. They're not particularly major. The first, and I would say most serious issue that I had with the app was that one time when I was on the range, this is 1 out of 6 times, keep in mind, the cloud conditions were such, and I was on the one bay that really has bad cell service at our range, and the app wouldn't pick up targets. That was 1 try out of about 6 times out with the app where the app just didn't work. The most recent 2 times I had the app out, it worked like a champ. It would recognize the targets within about 1 second to 2 seconds, and it was very quick. Another small quirk, and this is very minuscule, is that it wants you to name your guns, but more specifically, it's interested in what optic. It's not because they're trying to gather data on you. It's just so that if you've got multiple guns with multiple optics, you can pick the one that works. I named my guns like Sprinkles and Donut. It really doesn't care. But the list of optics is far from complete. There's a lot of really popular optics that are not listed on the list. So what you end up doing is creating a custom site through the Add Custom Site, and you type the name in, add the increment of adjustment for your site in either MOA or mil, and you're off to the races. But all in all, given the functionality that Double Shoot gives you with a basically targeting computer in your pocket, I view it in the same way I view a shot timer. If I'm making changes to my technique, I rate it on the timer to see if I can deploy them consistently and accurately to the results that I'm seeking. And having the ability to measure targets with no more equipment than is already in my pocket for basically nothing is pretty awesome. So that's the Double Shoot app. I think it's pretty cool. If you think it's cool, then be sure and follow the link in the description, check it out. As always, I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys.